So good evening everyone, welcome to Tsuriou's third master class. Today we'll be talking about the importance of foil color, the body of the squid jig. This is a really important, most important thing that you need to consider when choosing a squid jig. So let's recap of what we learned last week. So last week the Tsuriou's color science. So different color have different wavelength. The longer wavelength color like red, orange and yellow, they have long wavelength, shorter energy, so they get absorbed by the seawater molecule much faster, so they lose their color shade much faster. So in shallow water, they become pure black as a silhouette much earlier compared to the other colors that have shorter wavelength. Shorter wavelength color have more energy, so it can dive deeper into the sea. So that's why our sea is blue in color, because the water molecule does not absorb the color much faster compared to the longer wavelength color. So today we'll teach you about a couple of main importance of different effects to target squid vision. As of the first class, we learned about anatomy of the squid. Squid is colorblind, so we have to target their vision, colorblind vision, black and white vision with silhouette. So we have to create our jig to become black, create a silhouette so that you have a contrast of two different color compared to the background and the foreground, so that the squid can see the jig well. Secondly, they can see UV as well. They have a heightened senses that they can detect UV that our normal eyes do not see. So that is an important thing that to remember, because this is a crucial topic that I'll be teaching a lot on the UV vision of the squid. So we not only target their silhouette, we also target the UV vision of the squid. Okay, next also they talk about the glow of the squid is able to see the illumination of glow. That's why we use glow in the dark, because in the deep sea, they target prey that are bioluminescent. That's why they attack prey that glows in the dark. All right, so let's talk about first silhouette. Silhouette is important. So to create a different shade from the background, we need to have colors that is able to create the best silhouette. So those colors are shown over there, which is our color science topic, that if you missed out, you can go back to watch for our replay that will be up for another week or two before we take it down. So this one I'll cover on later on. So you can see that red, orange and yellow will be the first few colors that lose its shade as it dives pretty shallow. That one I'll cover on later on. So silhouette is one of the effects that we'll be teaching tonight based on the foil colors. All right, next is a crucial topic, UV. So silhouette is just what we see, color, and what the squid see. So UV, we can create something like that as well. And at Tsuriou, we call it UV silhouette. So we'll teach you how we can create a UV silhouette for squid. So for normal human being, what we can see is like this. We can see their face our face with color. But for squid, what they see is what it looks like that. Because this is a UV camera that take a photo, you can see the UV vision of the person. So these are what UV camera will see that our naked eyes won't see. UV create a black and white as well. So when we have UV damage on our skin, we have like freckles and pigmentation. So that will actually create to absorb the UV to protect our skin. In the camera, it shows that it's patchy black, the damage from the UV sun. So our skin create pigmentation to protect our skin from the sun damage. If it get even worse, it become cancerous, but in early stages, you can see pigmentation from freckles and those stuff. So squid seeing our face is like that, and they can see the sun damage on our face as well. So think of this like that. Sunscreen, based on what their chemical they use inside, depend on different chemical compound, it have different effect. One is to absorb the UV, and one is to reflect the UV. So the compound that absorb the UV is actually what it looks like that. So it absorbs the UV to protect our skin. So in a UV camera, this is what we see. This is a person. This is a person without what we see. naked eye without the sunscreen. Once they put the sunscreen, their face become pure black in a UV camera, as opposed to this. This lady without sunscreen, this is what she looked like, and this is what she looked like in UV light. But for a person that has a sunscreen on, this is what they look like in a UV screen, a UV photography. So we have to create our jig to look like that. So technically, our UV paint acts similar to a sunscreen because it absorbs the sunlight into the material and create a pure black and reflect out the visible light that we see. So it's important to understand that UV, we need to absorb it so that it will reflect the other lights out and protect us. So UV acts, I would say sunscreen, we have two types of sunscreen in the market. One, we call it sunscreen. It's because why? It acts as an absorbent. It absorbs the UV. But the other one is actually it reflects the sunscreen, the UV rays off. We call that sunblock. So we have why there's two names of sunscreen, sunblock and sunscreen, because they are chemical compound acts differently. One is to absorb and one is to reflect. So today we'll talk about how the different body jigs. Some we utilize the technology to absorb the UV, to make it UV silhouette, and some we use it to reflect off the UV to the material so that the material absorbs the UV and make it shimmer as well. So UV is important. It absorbs, will create black in a UV camera, a silhouette, and those that reflect will reflect the UV off to somewhere else. What we use for that reflection is to reflect it off to a material to make the material become UV charged. So UV is a really hard to understand stuff when you're new to it because I'm a professional photographer by trade as well. So with UV photography, we can see the difference between a normal naked eye photos as well as a UV photos as well. So that is a big difference. So this is what will normal eyes look at and what UV will look like. So for my glasses, it looks transparent in the normal naked eye, but in reality, in a UV photography, it actually becomes pure black. Because why? My glasses actually absorbs the UV light and make it pure black. So in UV photography, it actually becomes pure black because it protects my eyes from UV lights. So it's really important to understand how we can create a UV silhouette with UV materials such as UV coated paint. So it's really important to learn that. So this is an example. There's a 2 bottle, tonic water and soda water. Tonic water contains a molecule, a fluorescent molecule called quinine. So the quinine will actually absorb the UV. So under UV light, the tonic water become black. Because why? The quinine molecule, that's actually fluorescent molecule, they actually absorb the UV and actually reflect normal light. So what we see is a transparent, both are transparent water. But one under UV light is actually black. It's because they have the fluorescent molecule in it. And if you have a light shine on it, the tonic water actually become fluorescent, it become bright light. So that's why UV is important to understand that it absorbs the UV and create a silhouette, a black silhouette. For Tsuriou, we call it the UV silhouette. Same as the our clothing detergent that we wash our clothes. It's actually, you see why it's bright in color, the liquid, it's because that it contains a fluorescent molecule in it as well. So this is what a dish clothing liquid look like. So it's bright, and in UV camera, it actually looks pure black. It's important to understand that. Because for the detergent, they actually supposed to absorb what the UV color looks like and make our material and reflect the other lights to make our clothing looks whiter, to be really white and really bright as well. That's why it absorbs the UV, which is create the thing become black color and reflect the light that we see with our eyes to make it even brighter. That is why you see our UV coated jig. This is our UV coated jig. When these are UV coat will absorb the UV light to make this jig really pure black silhouette, and when with our naked eyes you actually see the jig is fluorescent, so it's neon colors. So if you turn off the light and you shine on it, you actually see this thing is actually fluorescent. I'll show you later with the example. So also animals that is in the snow, let's say you see a seal. Seal, the adults are brown in color and black in color, brown in color. So the seal pups are white in color. So in the snow, they actually camouflage with the snow. So a lot of scientists, they try to get a count of how many seals around the area. They do aerial photography. They use UV photography. White is supposed to reflect the light, but because of their body, they're able to absorb the UV. So under UV photography, they're able to see a seal as black in color. So this is an aerial photo also from the scientists. So they can see actually these are all the little pups from the aerial photography, the UV photography. So these are actually all the pups. So even with polar bears and snow fox and stuff, they're all pure white. But with aerial photography, with a UV photography, you can actually see them as pure black. It's because their body absorbs the UV to make them black. So that's what we call UV silhouette in Tsuriou. Okay, so now we get into glow in the dark. So glow to us have two functions. Our glow one is to create it glow in the dark so that the squid can see at night. So when water is cloudy or dirty, the glow will actually become a bright light that attracts the squid to come towards it to attack it. So glow is one of the effects that glow jigs does. And second effect that the glow jig does is that glow and UV glow has a distinctive difference. So this is a glow jig, this is a UV jig. So what's the difference between a glow jig and a UV jig is that glowing lights require a light source, any light source to charge it, and it holds the charge and it illuminates the light of the charge. For UV, it does not hold any charge. So it requires a sunlight or a black light or a UV light to shine on a material to be able to absorb the UV and to reflect out the visible light to our eyes. So for UV material, you require a UV light source to illuminate it. For glow, you require a source of light to charge it up before it will start glowing. So for glow jigs, why do we use our own Tsuriou torch, which is a 365 nanometer UV glow? This is a pure UV glow. It's because that when we shine on it, you charge the jig up, absorb the UV, and you reflect the jig as a UV glow. In that case, you target the squid with two vision, the glow vision as well as the UV vision. Because the glow will hold the charge, it absorbs the UV into the body as a vessel and it illuminates it later on as a glow. So we have the generic other brands of UV torch as well as our torch. Our torch is 365 nanometer, which is the pure UV. It's not bright. Why? Because it's a pure UV. UV, our human eyes do not see it well. That is why UV torch, pure UV torch, you don't see it very bright. As opposed to other torch where it's not pure UV, they have a lot of white light in it. That is why it's much brighter compared to a pure UV light. So for us, our UV light is not bright, but the purpose is to charge up the squid jig with UV. So once you have a UV charged light in the jig, it creates a UV silhouette as well as it glows. So this is an important difference to other company's torch. So a UV torch, you try to get a 365 nm one, because why? It's important to have the proper UV wavelength. All right, let's go to talk about the foil colors. UV is a really hard thing to understand because you can't imagine what it looks like in the UV vision. So it's important for us to teach you why and how the UV works. Because a lot of time a lot of companies will just tell you, oh, just use camera cloth and UV cloth and UV body and stuff, but you don't really know what's the effect of it. So if you understand the effect of it, then you can choose the jig that actually best create the silhouette. Not only silhouette, you can create UV silhouette as well. So because UV create the silhouette, so it's important to understand that. So first we teach you about the red foil. So this is the red foil. So as we have talked previously, red have long wavelength. So as it dive in a short distance down, you become a pure silhouette. So red is the first color to lose its shade underwater. So it's important to use red foil. Red foil is good for day and night in any situation. So any jig that have a red foil will create the best silhouette. Because why? Red is the first color to lose its shade. So that is why don't worry about others. You don't worry about that if you do not understand all this concept, but you can choose one that is actually red foil. It will work day and night for you. But if you want to be super effective, you have to choose jig foil and colors that is actually match the weather as well and the water condition. That will ultimately create even better effectiveness towards catching the squid. So it's important to learn the basics of the foil body, and you can utilize different foil for different situations to become more effective. That is why our company our jig is created to be most effective. Why? Because we incorporate different technology and color science into it that we can explain to you in a sec. Yep. So red foil is the first color to lose its shade. So you'll create the best silhouette. So remember that. So that is a good thing to use. Next, gold foil. I can't stress how important is gold foil. A lot of time, a lot of company, they underestimate this color. Gold foil contains a small shade of red within the bright yellow. So gold is really effective in multiple situations. Gold because of yellow and it contains red, so it creates a silhouette relatively shallow. So it acts the same as red, but it has an added effect of the yellow and the red to create a different shade of black. Not only that, during a sunny afternoon, the gold foil will reflect the UV rays, which will create a shimmer. So we'll target the squid eyes with shimmer. You know, in a hot sunny day where someone use a torch, where the sunlight hit the watch and they do a shimmer. So you shimmer on your eyes, then you get really irritating. So that gold foil will create that effect as well. They have a shimmer to try to attract the squid to come to it, and the gold foil create a silhouette as well. It also, because of its reflective material, you're able to reflect the UV light to the material to absorb the UV rays. Because this material is not like the UV material where you absorb the UV, because this is a reflective material. So it's sort of like a sunblock. It blocks the sun and reflect the UV to the material and charge the material up with a UV. So we'll create a really good silhouette with UV silhouette as well. So you create two effects. UV silhouette from the reflective material to reflect the UV to the material to become a UV silhouette, and itself of the gold foil, you create a silhouette. So this jig is really important, and it also creates a shimmer as well, that shimmer towards the squid eyes to attract their attention. So gold foil, do not underestimate it. So our metal dragon has the gold foil, which is really effective. So for this jig, if you use it during the day, afternoon, it's really effective, super effective. So for normal day and night, you can use it. It works well as well because it creates a silhouette. But during the peak afternoon, it creates a really good silhouette. And also with the shimmer and the reflective, it works really, really well. Okay, next is silver foil. Silver foil is similar to gold foil. So silver, what does it contain? The colors in silver. Silver contains black, gray, and white. So silver foil have black in it as well. So you actually naturally create a silhouette by itself. And during peak afternoon, a silver foil is really effective. Why? Because it reflects the UV lights to the material. So charge up the material to create a silhouette, and it creates the effect of shimmer as well, like someone shining their watch on your face. So this jig is really good in the day. Silver foil is for day. All right. Next, we Tsuriou also have a reflective series. So the reflective series, just let me grab the jig. So our reflective series is like that. So within the jig itself, there's a mirror in it. What this mirror do is like similar to what the other shiny foil does. This one will extra reflect the sunlight to our jig material. And our jig material for reflective are UV material as well. So it will hold, because the reflection on the material itself, it will create a UV silhouette. So our reflective series are for UV purposes. So this one will create a really good silhouette from day and night because of the UV that it reflects, and the material is a UV material that will absorb the UV and make it really black. And also because it's orange, orange is one color that loses shade quite early. So by itself, you'll create a good silhouette as it dives down. So glow, as I was saying earlier, glow has two purposes. One is to create a glow effect to target the squid glow vision. And secondly is to hold charge. So when we charge it up, use a torch to charge it up, and you start glowing. Then after you start glowing, what happens? It absorbs all the UV. Once it absorbs all the UV, what happens to it? You create a UV silhouette as well. So in the daytime, it creates a silhouette. That's why people use white jig and a glow body. It will still work in the daytime. It's because of that it creates a silhouette, a UV silhouette, because it holds the charge from the sunlight and turn it into a black silhouette. So it's important to understand UV that is absorbed into the material will create a really black to the squid eye. They'll see the whole thing as a black thing. Okay. Let's talk about some of our jigs and the material. So I'll turn off the light to show you the difference as well between the glow and UV glow. Still not very dark, so I'll show you the difference. Alright, so this is glow. And for UV glow, you'll see it's actually different. You need a light source to light it up. So you see? So this is glow material. So glow, it absorbs the light and illuminates. And because it's charged by a UV glow torch, it actually holds a UV charge in there and create a UV silhouette. For the other one, it's a UV coated paint, a bright neon paint. So this material will absorb the UV light because it's a UV paint, acts similar to a sunscreen. It absorbs the UV light and it reflect the other light, the visible light to us, where it's fluorescent. So you can see the fluorescent light fluoro orange and fluoro green. So this is the two difference. And for our Tsuriou UV jigs, it's totally different as well. We have multiple effects. We have it in glow as well. So we had glow, so it holds the UV charge, and it constantly providing the material with UV lights to make it constantly shining with UV silhouette. So let's go through some of the jigs that we can teach you. So our purposes for red foil is to create different shades of black. Just give me 1 second. I'll just grab the. Yep. So for red foil, it's important for colors of the jigs. When you choose, it's important to have contrast to create different shades of black from the water. So if the water in black and white, if there's this shade, you will try to create other shades to make it more stand out compared to what the water color look like. So our red foil jigs this is one of them, and we create it in orange colored cloth. So in orange, when you dive down, relatively shallow, it starts to become pure black. But we incorporate different colors, yellow as well as other lighter shades of red and orange on the hair of the jig, of the dragon. This is because that when it dive down, the body will look a darker black, while the head area will have a lighter shade, and the horns itself actually looks like it's bleeding. So there's a few different shades. Because squid, they usually tend to target the head first. So if you create a target for the head, that's why they will tend to attack the head first and will leave the body. So because we create a target area with the different shade of black, so for this jig, you probably will see 3 different shades of color in it when it's black and white. That is why our jigs are more effective compared to others, is because that we try to create using color science to target the squid's vision as well. So gold foil. This is our gold foil jig. Black cloth and glow. And what does it have? Gold foil, what does gold have? Red and bright yellow, which is the colors that incorporate into a gold color. So gold color will have red and yellow. So red and yellow, same thing, relatively shallow, will start to become black, pure black. And with a black cloth, this area will become very dark black. So we'll get a shade of probably this black. And the hair, we have a light yellow hair, as well as the horns as well as a different color. So we'll probably get 3 different shades here. Same thing, we have a target area for the squid to attack, to entice them to attack the head. So we have a head and body separation, so that it will become more effective than just a normal colored jig with just a different pattern on it, like different color pattern on it. So we have a purpose on each jig as well. So green. So this green dragon has a, what's it called? Silver foil in it. This jig is good during clear, bright, sunny day and clear water as well. Because green can dive deep down into the sea and still remain with the color green. That's why you need a clear water. Why? Clear water, so that the clear water, let's say the water is so clear like that, and this is what it looks like in black and white. A dark green like that will create a shade probably to this shade, and because it reflected with the silver foil reflect the UV and it's absorbed by the cloth, this jig will become a UV silhouette. It becomes black in color in the UV vision for the squid as it dives down. And also because it creates a green create a separation from the contrast of the blue water or the green water, because it's much darker green, so it creates a different shade of black. So this jig will be effective because it creates a separation as well. And the hair area, we create it as brown. Brown contains red in color, So this area will create a blacker silhouette compared to the other area. So why? The squid will attack the head first. So this is the reason that we use it to entice the squid behavior of constantly attacking the head first. So glow. So glow I have already mentioned earlier. And so let's talk about UV. So this is our normal jig, normal glow jig, and our normal UV. So this is our normal, very effective all-day jig, the black mamba and the white knight. This is the two colors that usually every other company, that is the best seller. Because why? It's the most effective for day and night. If people that are struggling to use certain colors to be used at certain time, they usually go for these two colors. Why? It's because it's very effective. The black red foil, what does it do? It creates a best silhouette, and the black cloth create another, the silhouette to be much darker in black. So this jig will work day and night, in dirty water, in cloudy water as well. White, what does it do? It glows. So what does it do? It charge up with the sunlight on the day. You can use this in day and night. Night, you use the targeted squid glow vision, because the jig will glow, the squid will get attracted to it and come towards it to check it out and attack it. Because under deep sea, they attack squid, they attack their prey that is bioluminescent in deep sea. That is why glow will attract their glow vision for glowing objects. So for that one, in the daytime, why does a white jig works? You ask, right? So white jig works is because that it will be charged up by the UV rays. It absorbs the UV rays in the glow body, which act like a vessel. So when the vessel holds a UV charge, it will radiate with UV. So what will happen? In the UV vision of the squid, you'll see this white jig actually become a black jig. So to us, it's just a white jig, but to a squid, it become a black jig. So for our new range of Yin Yang series, we have up another level from our basics. So these two jig is totally have an added benefit as well. So it just acts similar to that one. Have a red foil, a black cloth. Have a glow body and a white cloth. But on top of that, the cloth material we have coated with the UV paint, the super UV bright neon paint from similar to that. So this material acts like a sunscreen as well. So when you shine on it, actually it absorbs the UV rays and in the UV paint, and it shows this jig with the visible light. So this jig will create even better silhouette, even a blacker silhouette. That's why we call it ultimate black, because a red foil and a black cloth will create a silhouette. But on top of that, with a UV black paint on it, you will create an even more black silhouette, so in a UV silhouette. So this is the same thing. In a day, this jig will create an even more better UV effect silhouette for the squid. That is why our albino is different to other companies' albino. Other companies have albino as well, but our albino have an added difference to our normal white jig, because that is the UV code. So learn how to use the UV rays from the sun and understand how UV will charge up your jig and how it makes it turn black. So it's very important to learn that effect, because a lot of times we always think, oh, UV and all these things, but we don't know what it looks like in person. So that is why it's important what we see, what the squid see. So this is without a sunscreen, means that technically you can use sunscreen to create your jig with a UV effect, but do not use sunscreen is because sunscreen chemical create a bitterness. So squid taste as food or bitter. Once they taste a little bit bitter, they'll let it go. So do not use sunscreen as a UV agent to make your jig look black. So that is a very important topic. So learn this topic of the different foil, then you will learn how to effectively use different foil in different conditions, as well as sunlight as well. Look at the color of sunlight and look at the jig as well. So let's say if I'm using, why certain jigs are more effective in sunrise and sunset, is because that, let's say today's sunset have a more pinkish tone on it in the sunset, then we use a more pink jig on it. Because if you use a pink color light to shine on a pink jig, what happens? It becomes brighter pink. So when it's brighter pink, it creates a better silhouette as well. It creates a better contrast separation from the background and the foreground. So to be easily understand, if you don't know what jig to choose, match what you see on the sky. If the sky is blue, use a blue jig, and the water is blue, use a blue jig as well. So match the hatch is pretty much it. So if it's dark, use dark jig. If it's night, use night jig, black jig, you know. So that is why do not be afraid to think that, oh, I'm using a black jig, the squid could not see it. No, squid see black and white. So if the darker the jig you use, in the blacker the water it is, it creates a better separation as well. Even cloudy water, with a blacker jig, you create better. So it's important to learn not only create silhouette, learn the importance of creating UV silhouette. No other company will teach you about UV silhouette and all these type of things. So this is an important thing to know how silhouette works. Because a lot of times they'll tell you, oh, this silhouette have pink color, red color, orange color. All those are not important. For us, the jig, this is a silhouette jig. So it's, you have a bright neon paint on it. So what does it do? The color of the jig is not that important towards the squid. It's more important, it's more attractive to us human eyes to see it bright. That is why a lot of companies create a lot of bright colors to attract us. But technically, for us, this color is not useful for squid eyes. The purpose of the color, we have two color separation, is so that it creates a colors that it has two tone. So let's say yellow and orange, both lose the color of its shade relatively fast. So, but yellow and orange lose the rate at a different rate. So we have a two-tone. So we create a target for the head of the squid to attack. So do not worry about seeing a lot of Kimura cloth with fancy colors and all these things. It's not important. Kimura cloth, the UV cloth, the most important thing is the UV cloth and the paint is to absorb the UV light to make the jig looks black. So to us, we might see the reflected light of what happened after it's absorbed the UV light. These are all the reflected colors that we see, the fluorescent colors that we see from a UV paint. So it looks fancy and bright neon and stuff, but in reality, it does not make a difference to squid because it will create a UV silhouette for squid. So it's more important to see what the squid see than what we see. So I have to think like what the squid think, not think like what we as a customer wants. So if you want effective jigs, that is why we create effective jigs with multiple effects. Like this jig, it has a glow, it acts as a vessel to hold the charge of a light to glow, to target squid's glow vision. It has a UV paint, it creates a UV light source to create a UV silhouette for the squid. And also it has a two-tone to create a separation between the head and the body so that the squid can target. So it's important to learn all this so that when you go to shop, not from us or from anywhere else you buy, you will know that why certain jigs works better than the other jigs. So for our jigs, you may think it's expensive, but if you're going on a trip, you catch more squid than other companies' jig, $2 jigs or $5 jigs. Any jigs will catch squid when they're in the prime feeding time. But if during the off prime time, when they're not in a frenzy, it's important to choose the right color jig. Then you are the one that actually catching what others are not catching. It's important to understand how they see, because if they don't see it, they don't catch it. So it's important for you guys to learn how to utilize different jigs for its effectiveness. That's why people ask me, oh, how can your company's jig be more effective than other company? It's because we utilize not only color science, we utilize different technology to incorporate into the jig to make it more effective. Not only because our jig may think just looks nice, but it doesn't just look nice. It actually is packed full of color science as well as important effects that will affect the squid behavior. So this is very important topic. So you have to learn it. Then when you go shopping, you won't waste your money on jigs that is not effective. It's only colorful to attract you. So you understand that how to utilize different color to create the best silhouette effect or UV effect and reflective light from how to reflect the light to the material as well, because silver foil, they will reflect the material, reflect the light, the UV light, not absorbing the UV light. So it reflects and you absorb into the cloth. So for darker cloth like green, this is the darker green, you absorb the UV light better. So for white color or other lighter colors, you actually reflect off the UV light much better. So let's say if you wear a black color, you feel the heat because white absorbs more of the UV and doesn't protect you as much from the sun. So if you wear white, it actually reflects the UV off from your body. So you actually feel much cooler as well. So if you want to have the jig to have absorbed the UV to look more black in the sea, so you actually have to have darker colors. So you absorb the sun's UV to make the jig have a UV silhouette. So it's important to learn this information. So it will help you really well in your quest in squid to try to fish effectively. So fishing effectively is what we do best. That is why we try to teach you how to do fish differently as others. Especially land-based, you will see really well the differences if you're standing from a person next to you while you're catching, while they're struggling. It's because that you're choosing the right thing and the right material, the right color, the right sink rate, and the right technique will outfish, outsmart, and outperform others. So it's really important to learn the different concept that we're teaching to help you out. Yeah. So if anyone have any question, feel free to let me know. I'll just answer the questions before we head off. I hope the microphone is better. I've been trying to fixing it. Is it still really bad? Let me have Anyone have more questions? If no, I think that's it for today. Let me see, any more comments? All right, I think that's it. No questions. Anyone have any questions on the concept? All right, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next time.